The larynx contains a wide variety of connective tissues. There is one bone and many important cartilages that will be covered in this video. There are also ligaments, membranes, and muscles attaching these to each other and to structures outside of the larynx that will be covered in other videos. The bone that's part of the larynx is the hyoid bone. It is U-shaped, open at the posterior end. The hyoid bone has a main body or corpus, that is the central part of the bone. It has two horns or cornu coming off of it. The larger projections that make the U shape are the greater cornu, and then there are smaller projections superior from the hyoid bone called the lesser cornu. The hyoid bone has no articulation with any other bone in the body. The greater cornua do articulate with horns of the thyroid cartilage through a ligament, but otherwise the hyoid bone is suspended by ligaments and muscles inside the body. The laryngeal cartilages can be viewed as suspended from the hyoid bone, and the hyoid bone and the rest of the laryngeal complex are pulled together as part of the swallow. The hyoid bone also serves as a superior attachment for some extrinsic laryngeal muscles that connect the larynx to other structures. The hyoid bone also provides support to the root of the tongue. The laryngeal framework proper consists of a variety of cartilages, most important of which are the thyroid cartilage, the cricoid cartilage, and the arytenoid cartilages. The cricoid cartilage is the foundation at the base of the larynx, to which the thyroid and arytenoid cartilages are attached. The attachment points on the cricoid cartilage are referred to as facets. The cricoid cartilage can also be seen as the uppermost ring of the trachea, but unlike the tracheal rings, it's taller in the back than in the front, and it's also a complete ring as opposed to an open ring. The inferior border of the cricoid cartilage attaches to the first tracheal ring by means of the cricotracheal membrane. The thyroid cartilage is the largest and most prominent cartilage of the larynx proper. It has two large plates to it, referred to as the thyroid lamina. They come together at the lamina angle at the very anterior part of the thyroid cartilage. The superior part of the lamina angle has a significant notch in it. That lamina angle provides an attachment point both for the epiglottis superiorly and for the vocal folds inferiorly. Like the hyoid bone, the thyroid cartilage also has horns coming off of it. They're referred to as superior and inferior. The superior horns project up toward the hyoid bone, and the inferior horns are where the thyroid cartilage articulates with the cricoid cartilage. Here's a image, not from your book, of the thyroid cartilage kind of in place in the neck. So you have an idea of where it's located. And on the right, an image of a thyroid cartilage that's been excised from the body, so you can see it just sitting there all by itself. You can identify the thyroid cartilage on yourself if you put your index finger under your chin and kind of trace down onto your neck. You should be able to feel that bump of the thyroid cartilage and perhaps be able to identify the thyroid notch, depending on how big the thyroid notch is on you. Once you've found that notch, you can put your thumb on one side of the thyroid and your middle finger on the other side of the thyroid and feel the thyroid lamina. They are relatively small. We have many large pictures of the thyroid cartilage, but the larynx itself is actually pretty tiny in a human body. You know you found the larynx if you do a little humming and can feel that structure vibrating. And if you hum a little song or do some pitch changes like hum up or hum down, you should feel the larynx move as you change your pitch. Here's another image of an excised larynx along with the hyoid bone at the very top and the tracheal rings marked by number 4 underneath to give you a bit of an idea of what these structures would look like in an actual body. The cricoid and the thyroid come together where the inferior horns of the thyroid connect up with facets on the lamina part of the cricoid cartilage. This joint between the cricoid and thyroid allows a variety of movements, including the thyroid cartilage being able to slide forward relative to the cricoid cartilage, and the thyroid cartilage being able to tilt forward relative to the cricoid cartilage. These motions are not very accurately represented in this particular drawing. So in the upper drawing, things look pretty good, but if you do the tilting forward that's indicated, what you would get in the lower drawing would have the thyroid be tilted, but the inferior horns would still be connected up to those facets on the cricoid cartilage, like they are in the upper image. The arytenoid cartilages are located on either side of the posterior superior rim of the cricoid lamina, the thicker part of the cricoid cartilage. The arytenoid cartilages are pyramid-shaped. They have an apex at the top where they articulate with the corniculate cartilage. They have a base at the bottom where they rest on the cricoid cartilage. They have a vocal process that's anterior that projects out into the ring formed by the cricoid cartilage. And they have a muscular process laterally, which are going to be attachment points for the muscles that move the arytenoid cartilages. The facets between the base of the arytenoid and the cricoid cartilage allow a fairly good variety of movements of the arytenoid cartilages on top of the cricoid cartilage. They can glide left and right, moving the two arytenoid cartilages toward or away from one another. The arytenoid cartilages can also rotate and rock relative to the cricoid cartilage, moving the processes, the vocal processes, downward and toward the midline. This would be the movement of the arytenoid that would bring the vocal folds together. There are two minor cartilages that are part of the larynx that are embedded in a fold of epithelium between the arytenoid cartilage and the lateral part of the epiglottis called the aryepiglottic folds. The corniculate cartilages are just above the arytenoid cartilages. They're almost like a little hat sitting on top of the arytenoid cartilage. The cuneiform cartilages are just anterior and lateral to the corniculate cartilages, embedded in the aryepiglottic fold. You can often see where these cartilages are on an endoscopic exam as they show up as little swellings in the fold or little white parts where there's reflection indicating the bump in the skin for the cartilage that's under it. These cartilages presumably provide a little extra structure to the aryepiglottic fold, and between the epiglottis and the aryepiglottic fold, over the cuneiform, corniculate, and arytenoid cartilages, we have that kind of ring structure for the entry into the larynx. The epiglottis is a highly visible part in endoscopic exam when looking at the larynx with a camera down the back of the throat. The epiglottis is a flap of cartilage that kind of comes from a stalk and then widens as it extends superiorly. It's located just behind the tongue, kind of rests inside the U formed by the thyroid cartilage and the hyoid bone. When you swallow, the epiglottis flips down, kind of like a lid on a hinged garbage can, to help close off the entry into the larynx and prevent food and liquid from entering the airway. So here we have an image swiped off the internet of an excised larynx structure. There is a white arrow on it on this image. First thing we have to do to figure out what we're looking at is get oriented. In this case, we are looking at the larynx structure from behind. So then at the top of the image, we have the epiglottis and the hyoid bone. And then in the middle and bottom of the image, we have the combination of the thyroid, arytenoids, and cricoid cartilage. So in this particular case, the arrow is pointing at the superior horn of the thyroid cartilage. This image points to a piece of the arytenoid cartilage. You can see the two arytenoid cartilages sitting there kind of in the center of the image. In this case, we're up at the superior part of the arytenoid cartilage, so I would say our best answer here would be that it's the apex. It doesn't quite point at the corniculate cartilage, which sits on top of the arytenoid cartilage, a little bit off to the side in this particular image of this particular arytenoid.